Welcome to another edition of Wardy's Screencast, where today we shall be learning to look for contrast and contradictions. Why? I'm glad you asked. It'll help us determine the theme of a text, just like going through different characters and dynamic and round characters and static characters and flat characters and protagonists and antagonists. Contrast, contradictions also help us determine the theme of a text. You'll know you've got it when you can explain the importance of character, contrast, and contradictions. Analyze a video and explain any contrast, contradictions, and connection theme, which we'll do together in class. And as we continue reading Sheboygan Day, we shall be able to notice and note contrasts and contradictions. So let's get into it. Let's do this. When you see this, what do we think of? I'll give you a few seconds to think as you see these symbols. Yes, they are signs telling us to stop, keep out, detour, dead end, don't enter, no go above 60, one way. All right, we know they're signs. We stop when we encounter a sign, figure out, all right, what is it I'm supposed to do? Because if you don't stop and read the dead end sign, that's not going to end up well for anybody. So, yeah. When we read, we can have the same thing. There are what they call 6 reading signposts. When you come to them, you will stop and notice and note something in the story. So the 6 types we have, we're going to work on one at a time as we go through this, but memory moment, contrast and contradictions, the aha moment, words of the wiser, the tough question, again and again. All right, so today we're going to work with contrast and contradictions. All right, you're going to stop when you come to a contrast and contradiction and notice and note something. So what does that really mean? When you're reading and a character says or does something that's opposite, contradicts means it's the opposite, what he or she has been saying or doing all along, or what we would expect. So when you come, character acts a different way, says something different, stop. That's a contrast contradiction. All right. You're then going to ask yourself this question: why did the character act that way? This signpost and the answer to that question is going to help us recognize character development, internal conflict, relationship of the setting and the plot. All of that. All right, contradiction. Author shows us something that doesn't fit with what we expect, so we do have to pause and say, why is the character doing this? It makes no sense. All right, when you answer the question, you're going to learn more about the character. You might learn more about the problem they face. You might also gain some insight into the theme, the life lesson the author is trying to share, because when we have that contrast contradiction, there might be a lesson being learned here. All right, so bottom line is, as you read, look out for contrast contradictions. Where does the author show you that a character is acting in a way that is a contrast or contradiction with how he or she or they have been acting up to this point? Or how do you expect the character to act? You notice a contrast contradiction, stop, just like at a bell, and then ask yourself this anchor question: why is the character acting this way? All right, last week, this all ties into different types of characters as well. We talked about dynamic and static characters. Dynamic characters tend to change. Static stays the same. Ooh, a change in how they act, maybe a contrast contradiction. Round versus flat, very deep character. We learn a lot about them. Flat, not much to them. Protagonist, main character, has the ability to change. Antagonist, the problem that gets away with the conflict. Could be a person, could be a force. We connect all this. Remember, dynamic, changing characters are generally going to be around. The protagonist is probably going to be dynamic because they change. A change, a contrast, and contradiction. So, at this point, you should be able to explain what the reading signpost is, contrast, contradictions, what question you should ask yourself when you come across one. And other than that, Wardy is out of here.